Hi, ArcFieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Thursday morning, January the 30th. An active weather pattern looks like it will continue over the next 10 days or so, and we're really going to set up kind of a battle zone across the nation with still very cold air across the northern U.S. and some increasingly warm air down across the southern part, the southern half of the nation. This is not too unusual for the month of February, which begins this weekend, of course, with increasingly strong sunshine and increasingly warm and humid conditions down across the deep south. Meanwhile, still have some Arctic air up across Canada and also looks like up across the northern U.S. And that, again, will set up quite a battle zone for the next couple of storms here next week over the next 7 to 10 days or so. This time of the year, we also start to get the increasing chance of some severe thunderstorm activity. This is actually the outlook by the NOAA's Storm Prediction Center for later today and tonight with respect to the possibility of some severe weather. Indeed, there's a slight threat down across Louisiana, the same area that just a week or so ago had some tremendous snowfall down in that part of the nation. We are getting an influx of humid air from the Gulf of America into the south central part of the nation, and indeed there will be a chance of some scattered to numerous severe thunderstorms later today into tonight across the deep south. Well, let's take a look at last night's zero-Z run of the GFS. This is the total snowfall forecast for the next 10 days, and really this kind of shows rather well this battle zone area that I've been alluding to at the front end of this video. Look at this cutoff here of the snowfall over the next 10 days or so, and again, there will be a lot of cold air across the northern states and increasingly warm and humid air down across the southern half of the nation, setting up this battle zone. This makes for very difficult forecasts. There could be areas, for example, in the Mid-Atlantic region where it's maybe 50 to 100 miles difference between very mild conditions or snow and ice. And we have a system coming, for example, perhaps the middle part of next week that can very well end up producing a pretty widespread area of ice in the Mid-Atlantic region, for example. But other models that we won't show here today, the Canadian model, for example, much warmer than this current run of the GFS, has the warm air flooding farther to the north and east by the middle of next week, assuring rain in the Mid-Atlantic region. I don't buy that right now. I want to show the GFS and what is a possibility by the middle of next week. But again, a big battle zone setting up with cold air across much of the northern U.S., warmer than normal air across much of the southern half of the nation, and these will kind of be a kind of a wavy pattern with occasionally those warm air surges into the north and east, and occasionally those cold air intrusions from the north and west down into the south and east. But again, quite typical for the month of February, with still very cold air across much of the north and increasingly warm air down across the south. Well, we can see this battle setting up when we take a look here at the 850 millibar temperature anomalies going forward here. And again, we're talking about an active weather pattern over the next 10 days and quite a battle between that cold air to the north and warm air to the south. Starting off the day here on Thursday, a lot of warmer than normal conditions across much of the middle part of the nation. New England, below normal, colder than normal. It's setting up for some snow across New England from this next system later tonight into the day on Friday. We'll move forward here in time, and that warmer than normal air at 850 millibar level slides into the eastern states by tomorrow and sets up the Mid-Atlantic region for rain to end the month of January. It's been very dry. Places like Philadelphia, New York City, D.C., in some areas more than 2 inches below normal for this stage of January. Well, it looks like January ends on a wet note in those drier than normal areas from D.C. to Philly to New York City. At the onset late tonight, there can be some freezing on some surfaces well to the north and west of Philly and New York City, but for the most part, this will be a rain event in the Mid-Atlantic region and snow up across New England. Now, let's move forward through the weekend. Here we are on Saturday, and then look at this very, very cold air by the time we get to Sunday, sliding south and east from the southwestern part of Canada into the northern plains. Meanwhile, you have a lot of warmer than normal conditions out ahead of it across the southern half of the nation. Here we go, by the time we get to, let's say, Tuesday of next week, man, you have quite a dividing line right here with this cold air to the north, and some areas very cold air, well below normal, and some very warm air centered over Texas here by Tuesday of next week. Again, this is that battle zone area, and it makes for difficult forecasts. If that cold air comes down a little bit farther to the south and east, it could mean more snow and ice in certain areas. On the other hand, if that warmer air surges more to the north and east, it could be more rain and milder conditions for some areas. And let's move forward here from this point in time. This is Tuesday morning. We'll go out ahead into the middle of next week, and again, quite a dividing line right here by the middle part of next week. And indeed, there will be a storm system with plenty of moisture, looks like, moving up to the north and east. So exactly where this frontal system sets up will be very important to determine, for example, if Philadelphia and its suburbs get ice or snow in the middle part of next week, or an all-rain event. Just a little too early to say, but again, that battle will set up next week, and it looks like it'll continue for the next 7 to 10 days or so. At some point, some of that warm air may surge to the north and east, and at other times, some of that cold air will drop, plunge to the south and east. And actually, this particular run of the the GFS model has quite a cold look, kind of taking over the nation by the time we get to 10, 11 days out from right now. This is all the way out to Sunday, February 9th, Super Bowl Sunday it happens to be, and this is a very cold look across much of the nation by the time we get to 10 or 11 days out. Between now and then, a big battle going on between the northern cold and the southern warmth. Well, let's now take a look at the surface maps from last night's zero-Z run of the GFS model. And again, we have an influx of warmer and more humid air from the Gulf of America into the south central states, setting the stage for the potential of some severe weather later today and tonight, down across places in Louisiana where snow accumulated just what was that, a week or 10 days or so ago. Now we'll move forward here in time. This system with a lot of moisture moves to the north and east, and it could encounter enough cold air at the surface level here late tonight. We're talking the wee hours of the morning, 3, 4, 5 a.m. for some freezing on some surfaces well to the north and west of Philly and well to the north and west of New York City. But certainly during the day on Friday, this is an all-rain event for the I-95 corridor region from New York to Philadelphia to D.C. And all of these areas have been below normal in terms of total precipitation amounts for the month of January. In some cases, a deficit of more than 2 inches for the month. That'll be dented, that dry drought for the last 30 days or so will be dented somewhat on Friday, the last day of the month, probably a half to 3/4 of an inch of liquid equivalent precipitation set for late tonight and Friday, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. Now, you go a little bit farther to the north, and certainly much of New York State and New England will be cold enough for snow, and certainly some accumulating snow across, again, much of New York State, not New York City, but upstate, anywhere from the southern part of New York all the way across interior New England especially, and into Maine here. They get some snow all the way into Saturday morning. On the heels of that system, pretty cold air mass, moderately cold air mass, let's call it, for the weekend in the northeastern states, anchored by high pressure over southeastern Canada. And then on the return side of that high pressure, I notice here we have this flow of air that will be starting to pump some milder air farther to the north into the upper part of the Midwest by the time we get to the second half of the upcoming weekend. And then we have that another system that could spread some more snow across New England. And here we are on Monday, and you can tell by these dashed lines here, we often refer to these thickness values here. Pretty much all the blue represents cold air mass, and all the red, warmer air mass. And you can really see this kind of dividing line setting up right here. This is all the way out now to Tuesday of next week. Again, this is that battle zone area here with some very cold air up to the north, and it's anchored by some strong Canadian high pressure over southwestern Canada by the time we get to next Tuesday. Meanwhile, on the south side here, quite a bit of difference with warmer than normal air, especially focused over places like Texas by Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. Now, let's move forward in time here. And with this battle zone area right here, that's the kind of a pattern that can lead to some icing right on that north end here. This is by the middle part of next week. Snow perhaps up upstate PA, southern New York at this particular time, but a band of ice, and that certainly is a possibility in this kind of a pattern with this stubborn cold air, dense cold air to the north, and increasingly warm air down to the south. South of the ice area, rain. Plain rain here down across, in this case, the Tennessee Valley. But this is something we'll have to watch for as we go through the next few days. It could be kind of an icy mess by the middle part of next week. And then we go a little farther in time, and there'll be another system to deal with, it looks like, by the following weekend, Super Bowl weekend here. This happens to be Saturday, February 8th. Another system and enough cold air to the north, excuse me, for some accumulating snow across the Great Lakes and interior sections of the northeastern part of the nation, and maybe rain to the south of there. After that passes on by, that kind of ushers in some colder air that drops farther to the south, and needs a lot of cold air at this particular time by this particular model run by the time we get to Super Bowl Sunday all across the northern half of the nation and all the way into the Tennessee Valley and the Carolinas. You have some colder than normal air. Again, that's 8, 9, 10 days out from right now. So kind of a battle setting up in the atmosphere across the nation over the next 10 days or so, with a lot of stubborn cold Arctic air up to the north and kind of increasingly warm and in some cases humid air down to the south. And exactly where that frontal boundary zone sets up next week will determine if we get an ice storm, for example, in the Mid-Atlantic region by the middle part of next week. Before we get to that point, we have accumulating snow later tonight into the day on Friday across much of New York State, does not include New York City, and much of New England. And then we'll have to watch for those couple of storm threats later next week with exactly where that frontal boundary zone sets up. Will make all the difference in the world. That's it for now. For ArcFieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.